Pirated Windows. Pirated Windows is a copy of Microsoft Windows that someone uses without paying for a license. This is probably the most common illegal operating system situation in the world, and it has been going on since Windows 95. There are a few ways people do it. Some use key generators that create fake activation codes. Others download pre-activated ISO files from torrent sites. Some just skip the activation step entirely and live with the watermark that says Activate Windows in the bottom corner. Here is the thing, though. Microsoft does not try that hard to stop it. In many countries, pirated Windows is everywhere. Microsoft would rather have people using Windows for free than switching to Linux. Once you are in the ecosystem, you are more likely to buy Office, use OneDrive, or subscribe to Microsoft 365. But pirated copies sometimes come with malware baked in. You might not get security updates, and if you run a business, you can get audited and fined. For personal use, most people never face legal trouble. But it is still a risk. Microsoft can detect pirated keys and deactivate them at any time. Cracked window builds. A cracked build is a modified version of Windows where someone has bypassed the activation system entirely. The most famous tools are KMSPiso and Microsoft Toolkit. They trick Windows into thinking it is connected to a corporate activation server, called a KMS server. Short for Key Management Service, some cracked builds go further. They strip out telemetry, which is the data Windows sends back to Microsoft. They remove Cortana, disable Defender, and cut features to make the system lighter. These are called debloated builds, popular with gamers who want maximum performance. The problem is you are trusting a random person on the internet with full access to your operating system. Many of these builds contain keyloggers, cryptocurrency miners, or backdoors. You save money on a license, but you might lose a lot more. The smarter move is just using Windows without activation. You lose some personalization features, but the core system works fine. And that is completely legal. Lake windowed Sontco Bill else. In 2020, parts of the actual Windows XP source code leaked online. This was not a cracked copy. This was the real source code that Microsoft engineers wrote. Before that, Windows 2000 source code had also leaked in 2004. When source code leaks, anyone can read how Windows works at the deepest level. They can see how the kernel handles memory, how the networking stack's built, and find bugs that Microsoft never patched. This is dangerous because hackers can study the code and find security holes, called vulnerabilities, that still exist in newer versions. Some code from Windows XP is still present in Windows 10 and 11. People can also compile their own version of Windows from leaked code, which is completely illegal under copyright law. For security researchers, these leaks are fascinating. They reveal how Microsoft built certain features and where the weak spots are. The knowledge helps defenders just as much as attackers. But possessing or distributing this code is a serious legal issue regardless of your intentions. Hackintosh, macOS. A Hackintosh is when someone installs Apple's macOS on a non-Apple computer. Apple's license says macOS can only run on Apple hardware, so putting it on a Dell or a custom PC violates that agreement. People do this because Apple hardware is expensive. A Mac Pro can cost $5,000. A custom PC with similar specs might cost half that. Using bootloaders like OpenCore or the older Clover, people trick macOS into thinking it is running on a real Mac. The Hackintosh community is huge. There are guides for almost every hardware combination. Some builds run incredibly well. You get Final Cut Pro, Logic Pro, and the entire Apple ecosystem on hardware you chose yourself. But macOS updates can break your system. Sleep and wake functions often fail. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth can be unreliable. And Apple's switch to Apple Silicon, their ARM-based in-house chips, means Hackintosh is slowly dying. You cannot run macOS designed for Apple Silicon on Intel or AMD without extreme workarounds that barely function. Paraded macOS Virtualizing machines. Instead of installing macOS on real hardware, people run it inside a virtual machine using VMware or VirtualBox. You can run macOS as a window inside your Windows or Linux desktop. Developers are the biggest users. If you build iPhone apps, you need Xcode, which only runs on macOS. Buying a Mac just for one tool feels wasteful. So developers spin up a macOS VM instead. Pre-built images are all over the internet. Apple's license forbids this on non-Apple hardware. The only legal way to virtualize macOS is on Apple hardware itself. Doing it on a Windows PC violates the license. Performance is the other problem. macOS in a VM is noticeably slower. Graphics acceleration barely works. Apple's security features like the T2 chip and Secure Enclave cannot be emulated. So you get a limited, sluggish version. It works for compiling apps and basic testing, but it is not a pleasant daily driver custom console. This means modifying the original operating system on a gaming console. The most famous examples are the PlayStation Portable, Nintendo 3DS, Wii, and Nintendo Switch. People install custom firmware, called CFW, to run homebrew software, use emulators, or play pirated games. On the Switch, tools like Atmosphere let users run a custom OS alongside the original. Boot into official firmware for online play, reboot into CFW for everything else. The legal situation is complicated. Modifying hardware you own is legal in some countries. But bypassing copy protection to play pirated games is illegal almost everywhere. Nintendo is especially aggressive. They sue individuals, shut down ROM sites, and send investigators after people selling modded consoles. If Nintendo or Sony detects modified firmware, they permanently ban your console from online services. No multiplayer, no digital store, no updates. Forever. For some people, the trade-off is worth it. For most, it is not. EncroChat OS. EncroChat was a fully encrypted phone service used mostly by organized criminals in Europe. It ran a custom Android-based operating system on modified BQ Aquarius phones. The GPS, camera, and microphone were physically removed. The phones could only communicate with other EncroChat devices. The service cost around €15,500 for 6 months. Drug dealers, weapons traffickers, and money launderers used it across Europe. They believed the encryption was unbreakable. In 2020, French and Dutch police cracked the network. They installed a tool on EncroChat servers that copied every message before encryption. Over 100 million messages were intercepted. Hundreds of arrests followed, along with drug seizures worth billions and the discovery of torture chambers. EncroChat is now shut down, but its story showed something important. Even a custom OS built specifically for privacy can be compromised when law enforcement gets server-level access. The encryption was real, but the infrastructure around it had a weak point, and that single weak point brought down the entire network. Phantom Secure OS. Phantom Secure was similar to EncroChat, but based in Canada. It sold modified BlackBerry phones with a custom OS that stripped out all trackable features. No GPS, no internet, no regular calls, only encrypted messaging between phantom devices. Founded by Vincent Ramos, its biggest customers were drug cartels, including the Sinaloa cartel. At its peak, around 20,000 devices were active worldwide. When police seized phones, the company remotely wiped them to destroy evidence. In 2018, the FBI shut it down. Ramos got 9 years in prison. The FBI had spent years undercover, posing as drug traffickers to buy phones and gather evidence. The company itself was charged as a criminal enterprise. Not just the technology, the act of knowingly providing tools to criminals. After Phantom Secure fell, the FBI launched their own encrypted phone network called Anom to catch criminals who migrated away. That operation led to over 800 arrests worldwide. Sky ECC. Sky ECC was another encrypted phone platform, probably the biggest. Based in Canada, it sold custom Android phones with encrypted messaging that promised military-grade security. Each phone cost $600 to $200 per year. The company claimed over 170,000 users. Many were legitimate, but a large number were criminals, using it for drug trafficking and money laundering, especially in Belgium and the Netherlands. In March 2021, Belgian and Dutch police cracked SkyECC. They intercepted roughly 500 million messages over 3 months. Police seized 77 tons of cocaine, hundreds of weapons, millions in cash, and arrested over 1,400 suspects. Antwerp, one of Europe's biggest ports, saw entire trafficking networks collapse. Like EncroChat and Phantom Secure before it, SkyECC proved that building a private OS does not make you untouchable. When enough criminal activity runs through one network, law enforcement will find a way in, no matter how good the encryption is. Kali Linux. Kali Linux is a free, open-source operating system for cybersecurity professionals. Based on Debian Linux, it comes preloaded with hundreds of tools for penetration testing, network analysis, and digital forensics. Here is the important part. Kali itself is completely legal. You can download it from the official website right now. It is made by Offensive Security, a respected cybersecurity company. Professionals, ethical hackers, and students use it daily, but the tools inside can be used illegally. Wireshark captures network traffic. AirCrack cracks Wi-Fi passwords. Metasploit exploits software vulnerabilities. If you use these on systems you do not own or have permission to test, that is a crime in most countries. Think of it like a lockpicking set. Owning one is legal. Testing your own locks is legal. Breaking into someone else's house is a felony. Kali is the same concept. Most cybersecurity job listings expect candidates to know it. But it has a reputation because it is also the go-to system for people who want to do things they should not. Red Star OS. Red Star OS is the official operating system of North Korea. Based on Linux, specifically Fedora, it is designed to look and feel like macOS. The desktop has a dock at the bottom, and the design clearly copies Apple's style. Underneath, it is one of the most restrictive operating systems ever created. It watermarks every file you open, documents, photos, videos, with a unique tracking code tied to your machine. If you share a file and the government finds it, they trace it back to every computer that opened it. The system blocks any modification attempts. Try to disable the firewall or change security settings, and it automatically reboots. Its browser, Nayanara, routes all traffic through government servers. No global internet access. Only the national intranet, Kwangmyong, is available. Red Star OS is not illegal outside North Korea. Researchers have studied leaked copies, but it is an OS designed from the ground up for state surveillance. Every choice serves control. It is the opposite of what an operating system should be. ReactOS. ReactOS is an open-source operating system aiming to be fully compatible with Windows. Not similar, not inspired, actually compatible. The goal is to run Windows applications and drivers natively, without Windows itself. The project started in 1996 and is still active. Written from scratch with no Microsoft code. Developers reverse engineer how Windows works and build their own version of each component. This makes it legal under most software law. But the gray area is real. Microsoft has never challenged ReactOS in court. The project faced accusations of using leaked Windows source code. In 2006, they did an internal audit, cleaned out anything suspicious, and kept going. ReactOS is currently in alpha. Many programs crash, driver support is limited, but it runs Firefox, LibreOffice, and some older games. The real value is as a proof of concept, showing that an open-source community can rebuild a Windows-compatible OS from scratch. Whether Microsoft will ever act is an open question. For now, ReactOS keeps building, one component at a time. Anyway, I also made some other cool videos too. Don't forget to watch them later. Okay,